The budget that we're about to vote on is the worst Texas budget in more than a generation. I asked the question a while ago of Chairman Pitts about how we arrived at this budget. Again and again, I've heard over the course of the session this idea that we're living within our means. And I would submit to you that this budget is not about living within our means, but more a budget that's trapped by a certain ideology. We had, during this session, the legislative tools to make another choice. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to raise taxes, which is why I asked the question about fees. I asked the question about closing tax exemptions. I find it odd that part of the justification for the budget for cutting $4 billion from public education is that that is what the people of Texas asked us to do. If you sincerely believe that, if you believe that the people who elected you in November sent you down here to cut $4 billion from their public schools and $1 billion from higher education, then I hope that as the fall and the spring and the summer and the next fall come along, that when somebody in your district comes up to you, a middle-aged woman who tells you that her mom can't afford to go to a nursing home and asks you why that is, that you will look her dead straight in the eye and your answer will be, because that's what you sent me here to do. That's why I passed that budget. Or when a 40-year-old mother tells you that she and her husband are having trouble sending their kid to college because they can't afford it, because tuition has gone up about 75% or more at public universities since 2003, and this budget further cuts financial aid and cuts funding to universities, and she asks you why that is, I hope that you'll have the same bravado that you will when you vote in a few minutes, and you'll say, because that's what you elected me to do. You elected me to cut your son's financial aid, and that's why I did it. I don't believe that's why they sent us down here, and I don't believe that that's the message that they were sending us. That is an ideology. That is not practically what people want in the state of Texas. And we had the tools to do something different and refused to do it. Others have mentioned that we are, if not the fastest growing state, one of the fastest growing states in the nation. In fact, the governor often brags about that. And if he enters the race for president, I'm sure he'll brag about it even more. That we've recruited in the last 10 years 700,000 jobs to Texas. But there's some context to that fact. And I doubt that those facts, those lesser known facts, will be discussed by Rick Perry. And that is, of all those jobs that we've created, including the well-paying ones, that a significant portion of those jobs have gone to people who have moved here from out of state, who have moved here from California or Colorado or other places on the East Coast. And the reason for that, I believe in big part, is because we aren't building what I've called that infrastructure of opportunity. We're not funding our public schools and our universities properly. In other words, we aren't preparing and training our own people in Texas to assume these new jobs that are being created. So the jobs come to us and they're filled by other folks. And with a budget like this, that will continue to happen. I'm also disappointed that there weren't other ways that we considered raising revenue. I know that many of you from both parties support gaming. Gaming is not a mandatory or coercive way of raising revenue. It's still a voluntary thing. That never had a serious discussion in this legislative session. All around, this budget is both a betrayal of the public's trust and a failure at its highest level. And for that reason, when it passes today, it will be the worst budget in a generation.